This is Trophy Gold, part two of Top of the World. Trophy Gold is a tabletop role-playing game that you can get the rules of for free by going to the Kickstarter page of the Kickstarter that we ran earlier this year. We'll have a link in the show notes. And this particular incursion is coming out, as of this recording, it's coming out a few days from now in Codex Home. So I want to do a quick recap of where we are at from last time. But first, I need to cough real quick. Okay, so last session, we saw your characters racing across the rooftops in an attempt to escape the Royal Guard. You had done a few catastrophic faux pas at a gathering of nobles in the royal palace, and the overarching thing of what was happening is you're just escaping, right? We had lots of things happen in between, and we saw lots of cool things and encountered lots of interesting characters. You have kind of a quasi new party member with you in the form of Shiera, who is currently in the form of a cat. You have a very strange and troubling artifact in the form of Nuala, the Undrowned, currently trapped in glass and submerged in water and in someone's backpack. And you had a bit of a rough go at the end, and as you were escaping the Royal Guard. But fortunately, you saw, or Osto saw, someone that Osto knows, a fellow from the orphanage that Osto and his brother grew up in, named Alistair, who was also at least partially responsible for Osto's brother ending up in Barcelona prison. Alistair seems to have done pretty well for himself in the ensuing years, or intervening years, I should say. And when we last saw you, you were basically on Alistair's doorstep, Osto basically saying, like, give us food and shelter, you owe me at least this much. And that's kind of where we're at. It's nighttime. You're safe from the Royal Guard for now. And we still have this sort of, you have kind of like two goals going on. There's the party goal of just kind of getting out of the city at this point, but then there's the individual goal that Corkuluk has, which is to find this reliquary that Patience Davies wants from the Grand Basilica. That was a pretty high level recap, but I think I got it all. Is there anything that I missed that you want to bring up? Okie doke. Then with that said, I will tell you that I have something really wonderful planned for you today. So, Alistair, the last thing we heard was Osto saying, like, you owe me this much, right? And Alistair's head sort of dips down in shame, and he says, Right, I suppose I do. We're just getting ready to sit down for dinner. If you want to come in, I can have a few more places set. And Shiera at this point is in the form of Shiera, not the cat. So that's just something worth pointing out. That might be a little alarming to Corkuluk and Osto, because I don't think you've seen Shiera yet in non-cat form. And she'll just sort of like, well, I'd be curious, like, if you are surprised, I assume you are, how do you respond to that surprise, Diane? Like, how do you explain it away or whatever?
Probably gives them a significant look and just sort of whispers, we've got some catching up to do.
Indeed. As you enter into Alistair's house, Corkuluk, you will notice that above the awning of the porch, or on the awning of the porch, staring down at you, is Crow with glassy black eyes, and a somewhat unusual sight in the middle of the city. particularly because there's no carrion around right now. But it flies off, and you enter inside the home, and you can smell the sort of good, warm smells of food coming from somewhere deeper in the house. This is set. Alistair's home. Set goal: discover the horrifying secret of Alistair's household. You can, of course, spend 3 tokens to discover it right away, or you can go poking around and discover it on your own without doing that. But in any case, before we get really diving into things, let's just do a quick recap of where everyone stands in terms of hunt roll tokens, in terms of gold versus their burdens, and their current ruin. I'd like to start with Corkluck. So Brian, where's Corkluck right now?
In terms of burden, as I recall, that oh my goodness, I'm forgetting her name. Patience Davies has sort of offered to meet our burdens, and so I haven't been super.
That's correct, right? If you get the reliquary, right?
Right,
Yeah.
reliquary. And I'm kind of at the, given my enamored status with her, it's going to happen. We're getting that reliquary, or we're not going back, because I'm not going to show up empty-handed to my one true love, and it's just not going to happen. But in terms of actual gold, where's that on the character sheet? I got to find it again. Pardon me.
I'm looking at it now. Let's get 4.
Thank you. Oh yes, there it is. Sorry, I couldn't find it. Thanks. Yeah, 4 gold.
And I don't know if that's
in terms of ruin. I am at 5 ruin. So
right. Yes, indeed. Very good. Let's go to Diane. Where do you stand with all that?
I'm currently sitting at 4 ruin, 2 hunt tokens. I have 0 gold. I've got a very fancy milk jug worth 1 gold, and Nuala the Undrowning, whatever I can sell her for. And then also, I still have Beatrix Mandrake's Diabolical case, which is worth 2 coin.
You and Corkluck both have Nuala on your equipment list. Who's holding Nuala right now?
Yeah, so what happened was that Corkluck had taken it away from the hunter's place, and then Diane borrowed it to identify it, and then figured out it was this horrifying thing that feeds off of grief. And Corkluck was like, yeah, maybe you could just hold on to that, as I recall.
Yeah, that sounds about, I remember that. Yeah, that sounds right. So Diane has it currently. Wonderful, thank you. Osto, where do you stand right now?
I am at ruin 4, 0 gold on my burden of 5.
Okay. But again, not a problem if you can grab the reliquary. So good. Alistair's wife and kids seem puzzled by these dinner guests, but he just sort of shushes them, and he has 2 children. They are, I don't know. I mean, they're children. They're not like teenagers. They're younger, and a boy and a girl, say, and the maid. There is a maid. She's sort of setting out plates and kind of getting everything ready. It's a little awkward, but you will sit down around the table and be able to eat, and that will all go fine. I think as a paint the scene question, I'd like to ask you all, what do you consume either by way of food or drink, and Corkluck just sort of symbolically, I suppose, or what is presented before you, that indicates that Alistair has done really well for himself despite his rather low upbringing? Whoever has an idea, just jump in there.
Maybe there's like some exotic herbs and spices in the dish that are like harder to come by even in Ambaret.
Nice, thank you.
Maybe what gives it away to Osto is less the food itself, but more everything that it's served on, the glass, it's all really pricey and more than he would have ever seen before.
Nice.
If you want a third thing, an embroidered tapestry that's kind of that egotistical family portrait of, him and the family all gathered around him, but a rather ornate tapestry hanging in the room.
Oversized, right? Yeah, good. The dinner is going okay. It's a bit quiet, I think. Early on, Alistair will say, I hope you'll forgive me, but my oldest daughter won't be joining us for dinner. She's up in her room. She's currently with child, we're happy to say, and she's due any day now. And so we insist on her getting as much bed rest as possible. I'm sure she will be rather disappointed not have had a chance to meet my old friend and his companions. So, tell me, Osto, what have you been doing with yourself?
I have been spending a lot of time at the orphanage, actually, helping out.
How are things there? I haven't been in some years.
Not much has changed.
Perhaps they would be happy to have a donation. I should find some time to go by and drop off a sack of silver. Probably do them well.
It would.
And he continues to sort of eat, and he says, I've done fairly well for myself, as you can see. I head up a company of people who go out into the wilderness and look for opportunities. I am currently looking at a rather choice opportunity in a land called Torrens Bend. Do you know it?
I've heard of it.
Yes. There's an old mill village there, quite abandoned, but the land is very, very arable. And well, I think with a little bit of cleaning up and getting some farmers in, I think we could be something very, very productive, very profitable, in fact.
Would the others have told Osto?
I don't know. The others have a chance right now to chime in if they wish.
Drew, I didn't hear what you said. Will you say that again?
Would Osto know about your adventures in Hester's Mill?
Oh. I feel like somewhere in our travels, that would have been sort of a campfire story. In the evenings, we would have...
Seems reasonable, yeah.
I think we took back a couple trophies from that, too, that he might have seen around.
Yeah.
And he's probably giving not too discreet, questioning looks at the others.
Shiera will lean over to you, Diane, and say quietly, I don't know what it is, but I have a very bad feeling about this place. There's an ill humor in the air.
Is there a direction to this ill humor, or is it all pervading?
It's all over. I couldn't say. But if you know the sort of people I hang out with, you'll know that me having a bad feeling about a place is something to feel really bad about.
Yes, I take your warning to heart. I just don't know what we can do about it right now.
Enjoy the food and wine, I suppose. And she pours herself another glass, not waiting for the maid to do it. There is a sustained, awkward silence as people continue eating. And Alistair will say to you, Corklook, I salute you for, at the very least, entertaining the notion of eating with us. It certainly goes a long way towards making people like me feel more comfortable with your kind, doesn't it?
Thank you. I do my best. I'll rub a little olive oil onto some joints to keep them kind of lubricated, and rub something across my teeth and put it back on the plate.
I think the kids are looking at you like, like this very like wide-eyed, like, whoa, like what a weirdo. But very
If there's a
fascinating.
dog nearby, I'll occasionally like slide something to the dog after the table.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's good.
I'm curious, Alistair. I'm still learning human ways and norms. A daughter with child, as you say, but where's the father? What's the role in the family?
At this point, the wife gets very upset. You don't know why. She gets very, very upset. And she says, if you'll excuse me, and she stands up and sort of storms off. And Alistair looks at you and gives kind of like a wry smile and says, sensitive subject.
I'm still learning human mannerisms. Very sorry, and I'll call out after the wife. I'm sorry. Come back.
He's like, I'm afraid there won't be any consoling, huh? You lot have bought me a rather tense and uncomfortable evening with my wife tonight. So I suppose that's the least I have coming to me, eh, Oster?
Something like that.
Well, you're welcome to stay here tonight if you wish. It's getting rather late, and your friend, looking at Shiera, has had quite a bit to drink. I only have 2 rooms, so it might be a little tight. But if you are willing to stay in those guest rooms, I'm happy to have them made up, and we can perhaps even whip up something in the morning and see you off.
If Diane has the opportunity, he'd like to pass off the surreptitious warning that Shiera gave him before she got too deep in her cups.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Maybe just like, step away for a minute and kind of, or even as you're getting up from dinner, you can kind of like say it to the rest of the group. I think that's perfectly fine. But I guess the question is, do you accept his hospitality? I mean, we've already accepted a certain amount of his hospitality, I suppose, but do you stay the night or?
I'm all right with that.
Yeah, Asta would kind of grudgingly accept.
Yeah. He says, well, splendid. I shall have 2 rooms made up. Asta, perhaps you could stay with your mechanical friend, and Diane, you and Shiera, I assume that she is your lady love. I don't mind what you get up to under my roof. You can have the other room. Shiera just sort of like rolls like, no, that is not a thing. And so everything just sort of like, the kids are put to bed. The maid makes up the room. It's a big house. It's like a townhouse style thing. Lots of floors, right? And yeah.
Let me ask 2 questions.
Yeah.
When we last played, there was some talk that partaking in this meal might reduce our ruin.
You get to reduce your ruin by 1. Yes, that's true.
And then the other thing, is there in the sort of array of dishes on the table or things on the cupboard off to the side, is there a spare colander that I might pilfer to replace my missing token?
You can certainly do a hunt roll if you'd like.
Ooh. Yeah, let's give that a shot. So remind me, is it just a plain one, or do we need to talk about using skills?
Hunt roll is always 1 plus, you can get up to 2. You get the second one if you incorporate your skills or your equipment.
Got it. Does family cutlery count as artifacts? I don't know.
Unless you, maybe a piece of equipment would be helpful, something from your pack, but otherwise I think it's probably just 1 to look around to try to find a colander.
All right, we'll go for it. Oh, crap. A 1 and I lose my tokens, right?
You lose all your tokens, yeah. And encounter something terrible. I suppose your search would naturally lead you to the kitchen where such a thing might be, right? And that's all well and good. As you are rummaging around the kitchen, you notice something in the pantry that gives you pause. It is a wet mound of blood and black feathers on the ground in the pantry. What do you do? You're muted.
Oh, can you hear me yet? Am I on my own right now, or are Osto and Dion with me?
I think you're by yourself.
Okay. Man, is it laying on the floor? Did I hear that?
Yeah, it's just on the floor. Like it was almost like it's unclear what happened actually. It's just like it's a bunch of like blood and feathers stuck in it, like in a little smear kind of, right?
Is there anything corresponding within the pantry or up above that would have fallen off of a shelf?
It doesn't make any sense.
No butcher's table. All right. If I can avoid using my own axe, if there's like a handy kitchen knife or spatula or something to kind of scrape at it, poke at it, see if it's still alive.
Do a hunt roll. Yeah, do a hunt roll. And you can get 2 dice because you're using your axe.
6 and a 1.
Nice. Go ahead and take a token. You scrape at it with your axe, and nothing really happens. It just, nothing really happens except like you can lift the feathers a little bit, and kind of where the blood is, it's actually like a sort of wet, spongy, like flesh or organ or something, but totally unrecognizable.
Like this wasn't a crow torn apart. This was feathers that came to flesh from a different being.
I think it's clear. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess colanderless, I shall retreat to the rest of the group here and, make plans for the evening.
Indeed. Kind of Diane, what are you doing in the meantime, Diane? As you're sort of, the room's getting made up, you're all the house is getting ready to sort of like settle down for the night.
I think he's just sort of like walking the rooms and examining whatever the wall fixtures are, because obviously he's pretty wealthy. He's got that big tapestry. Like there's probably some paintings, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's good. Make a hunt roll.
I don't know that I actually have anything that helps here, except maybe craft to like
Craft.
find the
Yeah, maybe craft. Yeah, I'll take craft because this is a fine place. or such things might be, or such knowledge might be helpful.
Snake eyes.
The cruel, cruel dice today.
Yeah.
You lose all your tokens. And you discover something, you encounter something terrible. I think you're on an upper floor, looking around. And indeed, it's all very nice. I mean, there are a couple of paintings here and there, side tables with various little objets and things like that on top of it. Well-made furniture, right? You can see the quality of the place quite well. And the maid comes out of one of the rooms, and she has gone white. She just looks shaken, terrified perhaps. And she has in her arms a bowl, which is covered with a cloth. And she says, "Oh, excuse me, is there something wrong with your room?"
No, nothing. Just a bit restless yet. Are you quite all right? You look a bit shaken.
Oh, yes, I am. Sorry, I just, nothing. It's nothing. You get rather tense and nervous when there's a baby due. Puts everything on edge. You want everything to go all right. If you'll excuse me, and she sort of pushes past you down the hall.
Is the room she came out of like one of the rooms that was being made up for us, or is it?
No. Okay. In the meantime, well, I'll just ask you first, Diane, before we leave you. What do you do?
If there's nobody around, can I peek through the keyhole?
Yeah, I like that idea. That's a good idea. Let's do the hunt roll now.
Best I got for that is improvisation.
Yeah, it feels like a stretch.
No. All right. 3, encounter something terrible.
Indeed you do. We'll come back to that. No, we won't come back to that. As you walk up to the door, as you get closer, you hear a sound from the inside, a sort of like rasping. And as you lower down to peek into the keyhole, we'll come back. Asta, what are you doing in the meantime?
I think Asta would want to talk to Alistair.
He can probably be found in like a study having an evening drink, if that's reasonable. When you enter the room, his back is to you. He's sitting in a chair by the fire, and his arm is kind of out to the side, holding a glass of wine or whiskey or something. The fire is kind of crackling, and the room, like so much of the rest of the house, is quite richly appointed. Stag's head above the fireplace, bearskin rugs. What do you do, Asta?
I think he would just start talking and say, "You're taking this pretty well, my parents."
Well, at a certain point, you have to just get on with things, You can't change the things that happened in the past, Asta. And I've always been a rather forward a forward thinker, as you can see. It's paid off. Perhaps you could join me. I've always got lots of room in my company. Big, strong lads like you, resourceful.
I'm pretty happy with the company I'm keeping right now.
They're a curious lot, the company you're keeping right now.
Same goes for me. Curious guy.
Yes. Is his back still to you?
I think Asta would kind of circle slowly around the room, just looking around what's on the shelves and stuff.
Yeah. If you're actually giving a good close look, you can do a hunt roll if you want.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think I have anything that would help. Something terrible, 2.
The dice are very unkind today.
Just get it out of the way early.
You will notice there is a curio cabinet, various little things. And one of those little curios gives you pause. You don't maybe know why exactly or precisely, but you get a strange feeling by looking at it. It is a silver figurine, about yay big, depicting a crow on top of a pile of skulls and a crown on its head. And it's situated among figurines of deer and elk and, other like animals and pastoral scenes. And there's just one kind of creepy crow on top of the pile of skulls.
Asta would kind of lean in, try and see any details that he could pick out, mostly just because it's bugging him, but probably wouldn't be able to place why.
Alistair will say, something seems to have caught your eye.
Don't see many crows wearing crowns.
Yeah. In my travels, I have managed to acquire all sorts of objects of local cultural fascination, we'll say. I'm sure that's just some minor petty god that was worshipped by some long forgotten people, our world being so suffused with gods. It's a blessing that we have the sisters to help make sense of it all, isn't it? Give it form.
Speaking of gods, it's funny you should mention that. Do you, perhaps your company, know of any tips to getting into the Grand Basilica?
What an interesting question. I assume this is for surreptitious reasons.
Call it tourism.
But the sort of unseen tourism.
Asta kind of just nods. Doesn't give a firm answer.
The answer is pretty simple. The rooftops. The rooftops are the way to go. They are the key to unlocking the entire city, really.
What would you know about reliquaries inside the Basilica?
Apart from the fact that there are probably hundreds of them, I don't know. I'm not much of a religious man. Well, that's not entirely true. I just have my own private spiritual practice.
So not just money, then.
Yeah. Sometimes one's spiritual practice leads to money. The cosmic coin machine.
Asta would kind of give a unamused little snort. And thank you for your hospitality, grudging though it may be.
Cutting over to Corkaluk. Corkaluk, what do you do after you are done looking in the pantry and the kitchen?
In a kind of manner to try and find the wife. Have we given her a name? Does she have a name? I don't know that I've got it.
I didn't give her one yet, but we can give her one now. We'll say that her name is Mara, M-A-R-A.
All right. So I'd like to try and find Mara, both to offer, sincere apologies and also to pry for information.
Mm. Mara, at this time of night, I think she's probably, I think they have like a little, area behind the house that is a sort of covered garden. And she might be sitting back there looking at the moon.
Yeah, I will enter into the garden and deliberately bumble a bit, like stumble as I come in, showing how awkward I am, and say, Mara, I'm sorry to interrupt your moment of repose here, but I really need to apologize for my actions at dinner. My age is hard to discern. I'm a little battered right now, but I'm relatively new to this existence and still am learning my ways. I'll scratch my twiggy chin and show that I'm missing a finger right now, as an effort to show how not quite adequate I am, and see how she replies.
Yeah. I don't know if this quite rises to the level of a risk roll, so I'm not going to do that. We'll just RP it out. She says, it's all right. You don't have anything to apologize for. You have no way of knowing, or had no way of knowing, what goes on in our household, what sorts of secrets my husband and I keep. So I don't blame you.
Your daughter's well, I presume?
I don't know if that's exactly how I'd put it. She's had a rather complicated pregnancy.
Complicated in what ways? Remember, a little of the human condition.
Here, I think we're approaching hunt roll, at least, because you're asking questions.
Okay.
But if you can maybe work in a piece of equipment somehow or something, I'm down with that. But
I've got a plan for obfuscation here, because what I was about to offer up was in my inquiry to say that my companion Dion is fairly skilled in medical arts, and
it's a lie.
It's a total lie, but she doesn't know that, and so I want to bring up this notion that I essentially have a doctor and someone with more expertise than me, and so I want to try and elicit.
You're passing Diane off as a doctor. Yeah, it's good.
Yes,
or a physiker, we would call them in the setting.
Yeah.
I know that. Make a hunt roll, 2 dice.
5 and a 6. The dice have recovered.
They have recovered. She says, "Oh, how? That's wonderful. We have had something of a bit of trouble keeping physicers around. It's been a very complicated birth. Take a hunt roll token."
Okay.
She says, to answer your question from earlier this evening, I should tell you that there is no father.
I as a mannequin, I didn't know that was possible for humans. I am in a similar state myself, but it sounds like you described something very different.
She gives a sort of like a wild, almost like insane laugh, right? As if she's just something that's been weighing heavily on her has finally just snapped, and she's she kind of like this, you have no idea, my friend. No idea. It's been a very complicated pregnancy.
I'm going to take my intact hand, the one that has all the digits, although some are porcelain, some are twigs, and kind of rest it upon hers and say, tell me more about your stress and what we can do to help.
Well, I've just seen the maid go by looking rather distressed. Perhaps my daughter needs to be seen right now as we speak. Perhaps your friend, the Basilica, could
Yes, let's gather
take
them.
a look.
And I know Osto has skills as well that may come in handy, so we should bring
Wonderful, a mobile hospital, how exciting.
I'm gonna make some pitter patter about Prince Corwin as we head to find him and see if she responds to the name.
Oh, yes. This is the prince that like Osto rescued or something, right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, and I'm partially looking at the linguistics of Corwin and Corvid and just curious if there's a broader thing. If there's not, fine, we move
Could
on.
be just
On the chance that it's there.
a fine coincidence.
Looking at it.
She knows who Prince Corwin is, of course, but there's no particular response there.
Okay.
But it looks like our visitor might already be on scene. So, Diane, you hear this rasping, almost like a hissing, and you look into the keyhole. And you see one of your old friends. One of the, what do we call them? Hester's Banes. Crawling around the room, lurching around the room. Half oily black tentacles, half large crow creature. And you see a young woman who you have to assume is Alistair and Mara's daughter, laying on the bed. She leans over and she gently, lovingly strokes its slick black feathers. What do you do? Let's take a break. Let's take 5. I would say at this point that you have satisfied the set goal, right? The horror of this place should be pretty well in focus at this point. Diane, how convenient that the cat jumped on your desk, Blaine, because Shiera grabs your shoulder and says, what are you doing? Peeking in keyholes.
I believe I've discovered the source of your discomfort.
Yes, that's why I'm here. I've been focusing on it, and it brought me to this place, this room. What did you see?
We've encountered these before. Cat, just get out of the way. Sorry, we've encountered them before in Hester's Mill. We called them Hester's Bane at the time. They're some sort of crow beast. Tentacles and...
What, they're just keeping one as a pet?
Very well might be the young lady's child.
That is enough to qualify. That is enough to qualify for giving one a very, very ill feeling about the place. Do I want to take a look?
To satisfy your curiosity, we shouldn't linger here, though.
And she does go down to look. She says, I don't see anything. I just see the girl laying on a bed. Perhaps it's just the shadows playing a trick on you.
He'll give like a very uncertain, but just like doesn't believe her, perhaps.
I think you're getting ready to leave when you probably run into Korkaluk at this point, and Mara. And Mara says, "Oh, well, it looks like we're already here. It's probably getting on a bit late. Would you be okay with examining my daughter tomorrow, Diane?"
Diane's eyebrows raise. He is not a physic.
I give I jump in immediately with you remember all the circumstances back at Fort Durham where you helped all those soldiers and their spouses with childbirth and how successful you were, and there's like a really kind of off-camera wink.
Yeah. Oh yes, of course. I'm really more of an herbalist, but I do have some knowledge of the birthing process. Perhaps I can lend what aid I can.
And at this point, the young woman, the daughter, we'll name her Marina. She calls out from the room. She says, "Mother, is that you? I could use something for the pain, Mother. I'm having very, very fitful sleep tonight." And Mara says, "Oh, wonderful. But perhaps you could make up some sort of decoction for my daughter to help her rest."
I'm afraid you've caught me in the midst of the city. I'm allowed of such herbs to make a concoction, but if you have...
Well, we have a very, very
perhaps
expensive and well-stocked pantry. Please, come with me.
And he'll follow.
Osto, what are you doing in the meantime?
I think he would excuse himself from the study and possibly just take a bit of a scenic route to the room he'd be staying in, maybe looking in other rooms as he passed.
Yeah, take a hunt roll.
By the way, I'd like to tag along to the pantry. Still looking for a colander, a gravy boat, anything that makes a substantial head covering.
I got a 3.
A 3, meaning you encounter something terrible. The ladder, you're on one of the, not quite the top floor. Well, we'll say the top floor, the top living floor at least. But there's a ladder hanging down from the ceiling that probably goes up into an attic space. And the attic door's open, the ladder's hanging down. And from the darkness in that entrance to the attic, you hear, "Osto."
I think he might think that it's one of the kids, maybe, or he wouldn't automatically assume the worst, and he'd start climbing.
Good. You climb up to the attic space, and the attic has been repurposed entirely to be a sort of like a tiny chapel, say. There are a couple of fine wooden prayer plinths arranged in a semicircle. There are some candles lit. There's even a beautiful stained glass that would look out into the streets, right? The stained glass depicts Saint Hester, arms crossed, sickle, cornucopia, but a crow on her shoulder, which you may not be aware of, but for the religious is not how she's normally depicted. And the focal point of this little chapel is a squat gold statue, very similar to the one you saw in the curio cabinet. A crow with a crown on its head, lording over a pile of skulls. What do you do?
With everything that he's heard thus far,
And the statue appears to be gold, or at least plated in gold.
I'm going to assume that in the tellings of the tale, he was informed what happened last time someone grabbed a statue. And seeing Saint Hester there, he would kind of let out a little like, uh-oh, and start backing down to get the others.
As you turn, or as you come down the ladder, Alistair is there. He says, "So what do you think?"
I think you don't know what you're messing with.
I think you're wrong. I think I know even better than most people do what I'm messing with. In my travels, I've learned some things, Osto.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, very important things. Principally, that the sisters, these saints that we all revere and who are the glue that holds together the construct of our civilization, I have discovered that the sisters are a lie. There were never sisters. They're more than a myth. They are a complete and total fabrication. Vessels for dark beings to work their will over the common people.
And you're in concert with one of those? Is that what that is?
I am an opportunist. I am a capitalist. I do what's necessary to make my way in the world, Osto. I think you should too. I think you have a lot of potential.
Maybe, but I have plans, and if you'll excuse me.
Back down to the pantry. I think the two of you, Corkalick and Diane, and Shiera as well, will have a chance to confer outside earshot of the people of the household if you wish, because now you all kind of have you might need some time to figure out what to do, right? So let's just have that scene.
Yeah, so I think Diane, makes an excuse and says, "Oh, it's going to take me some time to prepare this, but I've got everything here I need, so feel free to go about your duties." And he starts going through the active apothecary work that he's been doing at the shop back home. He's just mixing up grinding up some willow bark and some arrowroot or whatever, some vague historical palliative.
Throwing some black cohosh or something, yes.
Yeah. And then we'll use that as the excuse to get alone with Corkalick and start talking about how Alistair has brought back some interesting things from Hester's Mill already, it seems.
Yes, and if I heard right, he wants to purchase property there. Thinks there's some kind of bargain. What's our role here, though? Do we, for the betterment of society, try to, I don't know, burn this place to the ground, or do we participate in unseen tourism and just sort of get out of here and get to the Basilica and save our own hide?
Oh, not lie, the thought of arson did cross my mind. I'm unsure what the best option here is. How far will this demon spread?
I know little of human anatomy, but can we save or rescue this daughter from her predicament? Or is it voluntary? Is this a predicament she wished upon herself? I don't know.
Saw one of the crow things in her room. She was mothering it. I don't know that there's any bringing her back from that. We might only traumatize her further if we try.
Is the whole family doomed?
I don't know enough to say. I assume the way the mother reacted and Alistair is nonplussed. That I suspect Alistair is fully on board, and the mother is probably not brought around yet.
What are the odds this family attends services at the Basilica, and that we might somehow join them in the morning for a service, a ceremony, and learn a bit more about a goal more lucrative to us personally, to retrieve this reliquary for Patience Davies, and just let the family go their diabolical way for right now. I can distract in the kitchen if you want to mix up a concoction, and then we go to bed for the night. And, if we can invite ourselves along to something tomorrow morning, perhaps.
Truth be told, I'm not sure I want to spend the night in the house with that thing.
That's a sound point.
It was strange, though, when Shiera went to take a look as well. She didn't see the same thing that I saw.
How much do you trust her?
More than none?
I assume Shiera's not around at the moment.
Or maybe she is in cat form and we just don't see her eavesdropping.
We'll say she's not here for the scene. It's fine.
Good point. Is there anything that helps you here along the path to breaking this geish that I assume Shiera also wishes to break?
Here, not particularly likely. Perhaps in the Basilica, if there are old artifacts of power.
Right, maybe
curse removing properties.
Maybe you're lacking an ingredient that wouldn't be in a pantry, a vial of mercury, some phosphorus, something that is essential that we can only get at the pharmacy tomorrow. We promise to come back. We depart for the night.
Shiera comes into the kitchen. She says, well, it seems the maid is in a bit of state, and our hostess has asked if I would come down to get Marina something for dinner. She's feeling peckish. And she begins rooting around the cupboards she grabs a black pudding and a chunk of bread and cheese. She's like, I'm happy to help out, of course, sing for my supper, as it were, but I certainly don't like the idea of going alone. I have a very, very bad feeling about this place.
Yes, we were just discussing our next options ourselves.
Yeah, let the maid deliver that dish into the bedroom is probably more prudent.
Oh, no. She has caught the vapors. She is done for the night. I sense that there's something going on with the maid. I don't quite know what.
Shira, you seem to know a lot about cats. Typically, you can lay out a saucer and they will find it. Maybe leave the platter of food at the door, knock, and return to the kitchen.
Yes, it's perhaps one way of doing it. Fine. And she gathers the food. Says, I'm off to do serving duties. It's like being back at the girls' school, really. And she takes the tray and leaves. Osto, I think you see Shiera coming up the stairs with the tray, and Alistair sees her as well and says, it's very good of you, dear, to help my daughter. She can barely get out of bed, and, well, I've just heard that we might be losing the maid. He looks at you, Osto, and says, some people are a little less impressed with my spiritual practice.
I think Osto would maybe stick a leg out and try and trip Shiera.
Oh, interesting. In order to spill the food, or what's the goal here?
To spill the food and try and get a distraction / get her not in that room.
Yeah, that's good. Risk roll. What could go wrong? Brian and Blaine, what do you think? I think Alistair catches her and escorts her into the room.
Similar with Alistair, very artfully catches the tray of food without spilling a drop and hands it right back to her.
Yeah.
She could do weird cat-like reflexes that gets Alistair to know that there's something not quite there. Not quite right there.
Oh, yeah, that could be pretty good. That might not be great for Shiera, but that's a fail, so yeah, it's good. Let's talk about your dice. You get one if you can justify it with your, let's take a look at the move. Skills because of your occupation, background, or training, or because you're taking advantage of equipment or the environment.
He could use the end of his hammer instead of his foot to try and be surreptitious about it.
Yeah, I kind of like that. That's pretty good. Yeah, you could even maybe say that like the stairs or like the environment or something, right? So, but yeah, I'm into that as a general matter. Devil's bargains. My devil's bargain is pretty straightforward. No matter what, Osto, you're bringing the food into the room.
Good.
No matter what, the door to the room gets opened.
Oh, you're muted.
But Shiera knew exactly what she saw looking through that keyhole and intends to go in that room.
Even without the food, that feels like I don't know if that matches the success condition necessarily, but I think you've got two otherwise pretty good offers on the table, Drew.
I think I'll take that the door opens.
Okay. You're up to 2 light dice. I don't think you're qualifying for the dark die yet, so go ahead and just roll 2 light.
4.
The complication will be that Marina will call out to her father and say, "Aren't you going to introduce me to your friend? To your old friend?" You can add a dark die if you want to avoid that.
I think that's good.
So give me the part of the scene leading up to before the door opens, I guess.
As Shiara walks up the stairs, Osto's trying to kind of make not too obvious eyes at her, like, don't do it. But she either doesn't see or she just doesn't understand what he's doing, and so he kind of drops his hammer from the backpack behind his leg and just kind of sticks it out a little bit as she passes. And she trips forward. The tray goes down.
And I think the door was probably a little ajar, and a draft just pushes it open. And you hear Marina say, "Father, is that you out in the hall?" He says, "Oh yes, dear. We've just had a bit of a stumble, a bit of a spill. We'll be in with your food momentarily." And she says, "Well, it's not for me, Father. I need it for the baby." He's like, "Yes, yes, I know." And then she'll say, "Father, I didn't get a chance to meet your old friend. Is that him with you there now?" Yes, dear. Yes, Osto and I go way back. We grew up in the same orphanage. I would certainly like to meet him. What do you do, Osto?
So first he apologizes to Shiara, making a big show of reaching down and helping her up and gathering the things, and terrible. I'm so sorry. And as Marina calls out for him, he just kind of freezes and looks up at Alistair, thinking furiously how to get out of this. And
He says, "Come on, Osto, here. We'll take this into her. It's no trouble." And he gathers up whatever he can kind of carry under one arm and puts his arm around you and says, "I'm glad you're here, Osto. I'm glad you're able to see well, we're not condemned to our origins. We're not condemned to always be orphans, We can make our way in the world."
Yeah, some of us end up in Barsul.
So, don't ruin the moment, Osto. We're bonding right now. And he's physically funneling you into the room with his arm around you. What do you do?
He's gonna go forward, but he's kind of shooting looks at Chiara, like, help. Because, if he knows if he fights back too hard, it's gonna get messy.
Chiara kind of senses that the situation is a little strange, and she says, she kind of looks at you and says, "Don't worry, I've got your back." And out of Alistair's vision, you can see her transforming, shrinking into the form of the cat. So she'll be in the room with you, cat form, if you go in.
Oh boy. I think the only alternative being protest in the form of turning into a bear, which would probably be more effort than he's interested in expending at the moment, or cause more work to clean up. I think he'll just stumble forward.
What are the two of you up to in the meantime? Diane and Corklook. You're not aware of any of this, by the way.
Yeah, also, I do think that Diane wouldn't have necessarily liked the idea of sending Sierra up there alone. So, like, hurry up making this concoction, and can he add, like, sleeping herbs to it as well?
I like that, yeah. I think if the moment presents itself, we can do a risk roll to see how that turned out. Yeah. Do you otherwise make your way toward the room?
Yeah, like the idea is to make this up quickly so that you can follow after her.
I think you'll just see Shiara in cat form slipping into the room. Corklook, what are you up to?
Remind me, did the mother Mara come with us to the kitchen?
No. Mara and the maid are nowhere to be seen.
Okay. For now, I trail along with a sort of a longing glance through this kitchen, hoping there's a beautiful gravy boat that'll fit over my head or something. Otherwise, I trail along.
You might see on a high shelf, a big silver soup tureen. Oh, we can't hear you.
I would be glad a soup tureen with me.
Say that again. Your audio doesn't cut in right away.
I'm sorry. If it would suffice to replace some of my obliterated armor, if you recall, I lost everything in the last time we played. I would be happy to bring along a silver soup tureen, kind of tucked into my bag for future escapades.
Yeah, you can clamber up and get that. I think that's fine.
All right, I'll trail along behind Diane.
Mm-hmm. In the room, you see this young woman, Marina. She looks exhausted and flushed, clammy, laying in a bed, beautiful 4-poster bed. It's dark, just a single candle by the bedside. Her stomach is quite large. Whether it looks like she's still pregnant, right? And she says, "Oh, good. Thank you, Father." She's like, they're getting so hungry. And she is taking a couple of bites of the food. And Alistair looks at you and says, "Do you want to see something very special, my friend?"
Asta would say, I think we've imposed on your hospitality enough.
No. My daughter is quite fecund, I think you'll find. And she says, "Yes, you must see him. He's so beautiful." And you will start to see something inky and black rising up from the shadows near her bedside. And you'll see the Hester's Bane, a little smaller than perhaps very small. They're normally about 5 feet high. This one's a little runtier than that. And it opens its beak, and she says, there, that's good. And she takes another bite of the food and chews it up really good, and then spits it into the Hester's Bane's mouth, stroking the black feathers the whole time. And Alistair says over your shoulder, life is quite a miracle, isn't it, Osto? How do you feel, Osto?
Definitely disturbed, not uncomfortable, freaked out.
Take unnerved condition.
All right.
Alistair says, I hope this won't put you off staying the night.
I'm pretty sure your little Alex Shrine did that, actually. We're going to leave now.
Too bad. And Diane, you'll probably be in the doorway at this point. Didn't see anything. You just see Osto kind of leaving, looking very, very shocked. We can just have that moment with the two of you. And then Corker looks right behind, of course.
We need to go.
Oh, Blaine, we can't hear you if you're talking.
Yeah, sorry. Diane said, I quite agree. And then, like, if Alistair is coming out of the room, he'll, like, hand off the whatever he said, and we'll give off, like, you know, this will ease the pain and help her sleep. And just, like, hand it off. Let's get out of here. Quick check. Where is Shiera?
Shiera could be right behind you. It's fine.
Okay.
Sounds like you're all leaving.
Yep.
Very good. Very good.
Diane is split between leaving and burning the place down. So
I'll call back at Shiri, you know, give our regards to Mara.
Indeed.
On their way out, would there be, could Osto look for just something to grab, something to try and even out the scales a bit?
You're going to spend a hot roll token, you can.
More terrible. Got a 3.
Oh, I was saying if you want to spend a token to get a treasure.
Spend a token.
Yeah, if you want to spend a token to get a treasure, you can always do that.
I will do that.
I think you'll find on the way out a beautiful brass candlestick, which is worth 1 gold. And probably not a bad bludgeoning weapon if it comes right down to it. If clues taught us anything. You are back out onto the streets. I regret to inform you that the guard is most active, still theoretically looking for you. The safest place for you to be is the roofs. The previous goal of finding a quick route to the roofs of the Basilica is not yet satisfied. What do you do?
Osto would turn to the others when they're out of reasonable earshot and say, we might want to burn that down.
Burn that die, you said?
Burn that down.
Burn that down, thank you. I can see your point both as a distraction and sort of a moral obligation. Speaking out of character, we're sitting on 3 hunt roll tokens. we could burn those to find our route to the rooftops to, I think, reach the Basilica, assuming that's our next set. But burning or setting fire to this building may give us enough distraction from the guards searching for us. I kind of like that route or method.
He does also have 2 other children and the wife who is maybe not in on that.
I think Shira would bring up that point too. She'd be like, what about his kids there? Even the older daughter is just sort of Stockholm syndrome or whatever, right?
If we can get up to the roofs, we can set the roof on fire. That'll hopefully take out the shrine Osto saw. Maybe we'll sever the connection. It'll give them enough time to get to safety. And we need to go on to the roofs anyway.
Yes. Given our history with Hester's Mill, if we feel this obligation to kind of purge both the city and the land of these Hester's Banes and their influence, do we look ahead and lie in wait in ambush? Do we play the sort of deep move here where we facilitate the purchase of property for Alistair and then set fire to his new property at Hester's Mill?
I mean, to the extent that you're committed to defeating Malfast and his influence, I mean, you had a chance to do that already back in Hester's Mill, right? If you don't care about that and you're just concerned about achieving your drives, then, who cares what Alistair gets up to, or Malfast for that matter. You may, but if you do feel a tug of obligation, morally speaking, to do something about this, I think the things you've discussed are perfectly reasonable approaches.
I'm going to make mine, and they're on we go. There's treasure to be had, drives to be achieved.
From Diane's perspective, I think he wants to do this whole set fire thing, but I don't know that he's really equipped to do that at this point in time.
There's at least a small part of Osto that just kind of wants to see Alistair's fortunes burn, but he would go along with the others. They know Hester's Mill.
Yeah. So, putting a pin in it for now, then. Is that the plan?
Yep.
Okay. Brian brings up a good point in the chat that flint and tinder is something you automatically have. It's not even doesn't count as your equipment. You always have the ability to start a fire. So.
I was thinking of something along the lines of throwing a Molotov through the stained glass window.
Yeah. Well, what do we think? I mean, are we moving on? We're going to burn the top floor of the chapel part.
I'm for moving on, and I will put my new silver soup tureen jauntily upon my head as I say that and give a little.
I feel like the idea of the fire is a distraction, so just maybe set fire to the rooftop a little bit. Cause your friend some distress, if nothing else.
He's not really my friend. That's fine.
So is the plan to smash the stained glass window and start a fire that way inside the attic?
Sure.
I think, yeah.
Who's taking point? Because that's going to be who does the risk roll.
Osto has the strength for a good throw.
Yeah. And so the goal is to cause a distraction. What's the actual goal here?
Sort of a two-part. A fire is distracting for the guards that are after us.
Right.
And then the other part is get rid of the shrine, or at least damage it, set them back.
You may not even know if that ever happens or not, but the distractions so that you can kind of more safely search the rooftops to find the route to the Basilica makes sense to me. I'm into that. What could go wrong, Brian? And who's doing the role? Is Drew doing the role? Or Osto?
I can do that, yeah.
Yeah, so Brian and Blaine, what do we think could go wrong here?
As the fire is catching, Alistair could see him, like, rush up the stairs.
And now we have a sudden, like, villain situation, a rival situation going on. Because I think I was just content to leave you alone. I don't think he has any, like, ill will towards you at this point, right?
I'm lost on one thing, sort of where we're physically located. If we are outside, looking back at this stained glass window.
Yeah. On the ground, I think.
All right. So I could see Osto breaking the neighbor's window instead.
Setting it on fire.
Right. Like,
right, yeah.
Wrong house.
You'll definitely have to get a little bit of elevation to be able to get a good enough throw into the stained glass window for sure. So I think it's a danger. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a danger that you just missed throw for sure. I would say what could go wrong is, this actually like draws unwanted attention to you. And while you have previously escaped the guard, this might put them back on your tails, might serve the opposite purpose of what you want to do. And so with all that said, let's take a look at your dice. Certainly strength and destruction apply here, so you've got a die there. Devil's bargains. No matter what, one of Alistair's smaller children ends up with you.
No matter what, the Hester's Bane escapes into the city.
That's good. Say that again, Ryan.
I don't think I have anything better at the moment.
Okay.
I kind of like the idea of Osto having to babysit and bring this kid back to the orphanage. But I can't imagine that as being anything more than a terrible complicating factor as we continue. So I think I'll go with the escaped Hester's Bane.
Very good. And I don't think you're quite risking mind or body yet at this point. Go ahead and take 2 light dice.
All right. A 6.
Nice. Full success. Describe it.
So from their vantage point, he lights a Molotov cocktail with what they have and just chucks the bottle straight through the stained glass window. And as they start heading away, he turns back to see the first licks of smoke coming out over the top and the orange glow from within.
And with the constabulary distracted, you are able to safely scan the rooftops and get where you need to be, find the route to the rooftops of the Grand Basilica, thereby satisfying the goal. Let's take a 5-minute break before we go into the next set. We're about to say something, Brian.
I was going to say, we need the scene where Osto is walking away in slow motion as the house sets on fire behind him.
Yeah. Let's take 5. I think by the time you reach the rooftops of the Grand Basilica, it's probably very early the next morning, like around 5 a.m., say. The sun is just barely peeking over the horizon, but still pretty obscured by the buildings of Ambaret, giving the whole place a sort of gentle pink glow of dawn, right? The Grand Basilica. We have two set goals. First is defeat the Stone Guardian. Second, find the reliquary that Patience Davies wants. The Grand Basilica is a sprawling Baroque cathedral with dozens of branches and literally miles of complicated flying buttresses, arches, elaborate crenellations, and depictions of the various sisters in reliefs and statuary. It is as large as an entire neighborhood and deceptively easy to get lost in. As you are making your way along the rooftops, there is a constant drone of chanting coming from the many chapels below. And you can occasionally hear the actual drone of chanting, but really you more feel it sort of reverberating through the stone under your feet. And at one point, you can see below a narrow walkway, there's a 60-foot drop, and at the bottom, you see a skeleton wearing nun's robes, its bones picked clean by carrion birds. Who knows how long ago this nun took a tumble? Who knows if anyone even knows she's down there? Obviously not, because the corpse just laid down there until it withered away. That's how easy it is to get lost up in this place. There is a sort of acrid odor of old burnt incense that just kind of hangs everywhere as you are making your way across the roofs of the Grand Basilica. And a massive conspiracy of ravens, hundreds of them, line a particular section of roof that they have decided to make their home, and they do not seem perturbed by your presence in any way. The central sort of feature, as we pick up the scene that you see, is there's a sort of vast flat roof with gutters for rainwater. And on this roof are dozens and dozens of large statues of the sisters. They are perhaps being stored up here for future redeployment, or maybe they're being renovated, who knows. But they're just sort of all over the place, this statue garden. And in the center of this little statue garden, there's one statue that's a little taller than all the rest. A question for all of you. You see an icon of your own patron saint here among the statues. How has it been marred or defaced or otherwise damaged so that it needs to be repaired? Does the damage appear deliberate or from handling or the passage of time? And tell me a little bit about your saint as well.
Because I don't know all the sisters still.
You can just make something up, it's fine.
Okay. Let me say that my patron saint, the statue is propped up precariously because both feet, initially carved from stone, were knocked loose and replaced with this kind of threadbare braiding of wire that's meant to emulate the feet of a crow.
Mm.
But they don't seem quite capable of properly balancing the weight of the stone figure. And it's peculiar because the saint that I've been seeing as my patron is one known for the ability to reconstruct, to build, to kind of a masonry saint, if you will, somebody who would be skilled in porcelain work. But someone should deface that by removing the very stonework to replace it with a flimsy wire frame seems just abhorrent.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I will tell you that give me one moment. You see a few different saints related to crafting. In fact, the big central statue is a saint connected to yours, Saint Bargita, who is the patron saint of icon crafters, actually. And you'll even see across the way on the roof what appears to be like a stonemason's workstation. There's like a sturdy canvas tarpaulin, all the tools you would need to work on both statues and blocks of stone and things like that. This is a place where work like that gets done. What about you, Diane?
Diane also has a patron saint related to crafting, probably a different one, more of like a carpenter or perhaps a stonemason or something along those lines. And like, you know, the typical pose that the sisters are in with the crossed arms. Like, it's supposed to be like one hand has like a mallet, one hand has like a chisel. And just like one of the hands is just like completely crumbled. And the other hand has been chiseled off deliberately.
And again, you'll also note the statue of Saint Bargita, who is the sort of the oversaint of the crafter saints, right? Her focus of crafting being icons and the religious, right? She's a more spiritual aspect of the crafting saints. What about you, Austin?
I think Osto kind of inherited his patron saint. It's the patron saint associated with his orphanage, and that's Saint Agniti, the patron saint of lost children. And the statue, it's normally pictured with one hand. Are all the sisters with arms crossed? And
They're usually depicted in this way, not always, but most of the time.
I think this one has her hands open, actually, as if welcoming, and in one of her hands is normally a ribbon, and in the other is a torch. But this one, normally the torch is presented in a way that makes it look like it's lit with either a stone flame. The flame has either been snapped off or was never carved, so it's disconcerting.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Corklook, what do you do?
I know we're searching for egress into the Basilica. So it's kind of my primary focus, but I also want to know who the hell has battered and destroyed these other saint statues. We've talked about the 3 of our own that are defaced. Are all the rest, other than Saint Bargita, defaced?
Saint Bargita is the only one that is not defaced. And before you even get a chance to really truly look around, I need to read the text real quick. Before you get a chance to really even look around, the statue of Saint Bargita, its eyes seem to open and they glow white and hot. And the stone robe that was carved to look as if it was billowing in the wind does indeed begin to billow in the wind. And she uncrosses her arms. In one hand is a chisel, in one hand a mallet. And she's quite tall. This statue is very big. It's about 15 feet from hem to the tip of her saintly crown. The other ones are tall too, but she's just even taller. She has this crown of golden spikes that kind of give the impression of a decorative fence, right? And she opens her mouth and says, "What are you doing here, interlopers? Be gone from this place." What do you do?
Mannequin nature and skill in mimicry. And
this is very advanced construct work, right?
Yes. I love what you've done with the place. These false idols really did not belong atop the Basilica that is clearly solely for Saint Brigitte.
I will not tolerate your heresy. Lower being.
I was gonna ask how we could help.
You turn, perhaps briefly, as you address the other, or say, "Oh, these other icons," or whatever, right? And when you turn back, she's much closer to you than she was before. You didn't hear any movement, but she's there, brandishing her chisel and stone, or chisel and hammer above you. Fall to your knees and repent. What are the other 2 of you doing right now?
Osto has definitely got his hammer at the ready, but is standing back, hoping Corcolet can pull this out.
And Shiera says something over your shoulder in cat form, like, "I hate churches."
Diane is trying to get like an understanding of the forces that animate it.
Interesting. I'll let you have a hunt roll on that. How are you doing it?
Spirits or curses, either one. And then
Spirit sounds
craft
good. Go ahead. Yeah.
It's a 5.
Take a token. A crow lands on her shoulder. A bit of an echo of the stained glass window, right? But it's very tiny on her shoulder, right? But it lands on her shoulder, and she turns and lets out a breath, and the crow instantly turns to stone and is now a permanent part of her construct. This Diane, the spirits that power her are extremely powerful. This is incredibly powerful divine magic at play. Korkuluk, she has demanded that you kneel and repent. What do you do?
Yeah. I'm questioning burning hunt tokens right now. I have, I believe, 2 to contribute. And I think that this is a potentially super lethal encounter here, and it sort of seems prudent to, exploit what we've learned from the region to do what we can. How do the rest of you feel?
On board?
I will say that if you combat her, she's an endurance 10. Not undefeatable by any means, but
no. But
I will also say that bladed weapons will have a hard time against her.
What about magical bladed weapons?
The weapons, the most effective weapons are going to be those that can break things.
We do have pickaxes in our backpack as a potential.
I've got a spear. Rusto's got a hammer. We can chisel the fuck out of her.
I shall speak my command one more time. Lower order being, fall to your knees and repent.
What do you think? Fight?
And then maybe save the tokens for the reliquary.
I don't know.
I still got one armor and a warhammer.
Korkuluk has an armor now, so that's good.
True. Very shiny armor.
Yes.
Well.
Is that 2 votes for combat?
Yeah, we're going combat.
All right. I can tiptoe backwards to try and bring out some space to flank and say, kneeling over here, the light's a little better, and I'll be trying to fish a pickaxe out of my backpack while so doing.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. Combat roll. Tell me how you are vulnerable and roll your weak point.
I think Osto is unnerved, not just by what he saw with the crow thing, but also just the whole sister heresy.
Yeah, so who knows if that's true, but that's what Alistair believes, at least, right?
Right.
Good. What's your weak point?
5.
5. Not a great weak point. Diane, how are you vulnerable?
This thing's huge, and he's doing it with a spear, so he's still got some reach. So he can stay far enough back, but he's also still not great with the spear.
Right. And I'll tell you for your die roll, I'm going to give you another die to start with for Shiera. So,
Okay.
Korkuluk, how are you vulnerable?
Well, the saint's attention is clearly on me, and I am half stonework to begin with, in the sense that porcelain's been vitrified. So it probably wouldn't take her much to add a little bit to my stone burden.
Indeed. Diane, what was your number for weak point?
4.
4. And what's yours, Korkuluk? 4. Oh, 2 4s. Okay. 4 is the bad number. But you are getting 4 combat roll dice to start, so that's pretty good. Korkuluk, why don't you take the roll? Just shy, 5 and 4, 3 and 1, and the 4 and 5 are both bad numbers. So let's begin the combat. I'll tell you how she moves. She literally doesn't move. What she does is, the statues are her ways of moving. So she literally, basically disappears and rematerializes through one of the other statues and strikes. You never see her legs walking, right? It's like she's teleporting to the statues. Right? But kick us off, Korkuluk. How's this going?
Backing up, fishing out this pickaxe, back butt up against another statue, not realizing this is how she moves about, and just smacks that beautiful silver tureen right the hell off my head with a stunning kind of in
so
my
she just
ears.
appears behind you and smacks it off. Yeah, it's good. And I think as she materializes out of each statue, they crumble away. She sort of bursts out of them, sort of, right? So, but there's lots, don't worry. Keep it going, Osto.
He turns to kind of see what's happened to Korkuluk, and he sees the guardian bursts out of his statue, and that's kind of, he pauses and is off his game, and as it strikes Korkuluk, I think maybe it hits him with the backhand.
Nice. And so you're taking a ruin, and Diane, keep it going.
I've got a quick memory check. Does anybody remember me checking my armor last time? Because it's currently unchecked, but I thought there was something. I don't remember if I checked my armor, if I just redid a risk roll.
4 rolls of 2 that hammered my weak point in a fight.
Yeah, so
I remember that the pursuit went very badly for you all. It was a bad roll or encounter.
Yeah, I remember there was a spot where Shiera rescued me, and that's where I think it would have happened. But she rescued me, and I didn't use the amulet, so I think that was...
I think that's what it was. She counted your armor for that, yeah. Yeah, I think that's what happened there. Yeah.
Okay. So now my sheet is accurate. So in that case, I think Diane is just getting closer than he really needs to with the spear, and that just opens him up to being just knocked forcefully back, and he knocks his head against another statue.
Nice. Okie doke. You can take, 2 more hits?
Yep.
And Korkuluk can take 2 more hits. Do you have any other armor, Korkuluk, by chance? No, it doesn't look like it. And Osto can take 2 more hits as well. And I think you've got armor as well, right, Osto?
Yes.
Yeah.
Narratively, I think I can only take, well, one more hit to land at ruin 5. 2 would put me at 6.
Yeah. So you have the option of backing out and giving your weak point to someone else. You still get the same amount of dice. It'll be 5 dice, but it's just you're kind of putting all your burden on whoever stays in the fight. So just know that.
And I'm realizing game-wise, maybe I should have taken the ruin and kept the soup tureen. I don't know.
You can do that if you want. I'm okay with that. Because if you take,
Sure.
because the soup tureen can knock out multiple hits, right? Not just the one.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So let's go with that. Let's say that I got a stunning blow to the skull that is still ringing in my mannequin ears.
Yeah. Diane, you feeling good? You want to stay in?
Yeah, I'll risk it.
Okie doke. You are up to 5 dice. Osto, do the honors.
$11.
Enough to destroy her, but there's also a 5 and a 4 there that I see. Take her down. Start, Osto.
After a moment to recover, he just kind of makes a pretty wild guess that turns out to be right, where she'll appear next, and just clubs her right in the chest with his hammer. And her scrabbling hand, or scrabbling, sorry, did you say she had a dagger or?
There's a hammer and a chisel.
Chisel, that's right. Catches him in the gauntlets, or gauntlet.
Nice, good. Diane. You're muted.
Yep. Sorry. Dinah's getting more comfortable with the spear. And I do have a question. Like, I know we stated when we found it that this was a magical spear. Is that portraying itself in any way in this combat, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you can definitely, where'd you get that spear? Where'd it come from?
That was in the statue, in the Huntsman's Manor where the vines were.
Yeah. Yes, that spear actually does have some magical power to it. I believe it kind of unerringly finds the heart of whatever it's striking at.
Yeah, so I think like he's just chipping away at like the center of this thing, and it's slow progress, but it's like opening it up to be attacked by somebody else in the next spot.
Corklet finished off.
I feel like Osto has the defining crushing blow here, but a piece of shrapnel comes flying off of that. This chunk of stone strikes Korkuluk and just takes a chunk out of his shoulder in this sort of obliterating stone against porcelain crack burst, fragments flying everywhere. And Korkuluk, kind of damaged and enraged, and once again at 5 ruin, just glares at us. It's like, oh my god, no teacup is going to replace that.
I'm sorry.
All right, finish her off, Osto.
As he's spouting his frantic apologies, he just kind of swings the hammer up and catches the statue under the chin, and is more than a little surprised when it just, the face is just cleaved off upward.
Nice, good. And when you crack her open, there are gems inside the chest that are sort of the locus of her power, or the focus of what animates her. Roll 10 gold dice, please, to see what they're worth.
3.
So 1 gold each. So you can just mark down
Good.
1 gold.
So take 2, since you've beaten this thing. Seem okay?
Do I?
Pick one's okay.
I said I'm at 4 gold. It seems like Osto take another, on the chance that I at 5 ruin do not make it out of this. Go on without me. You've got 2 gold. Something like that. All for one, one for all.
Thank you.
So the question becomes at the end of this, with the rubble of Saint Barchita's statue at your feet. It's really early in the morning still, but the Basilica's hopping. You can hear chanting and stuff. Like I said, like there's kind of always people here, right? Like around the clock, more or less, because it's such a vast complex. There's so many saints, so many chapels, so many people always coming in and out to worship, right? It would be, reliquary is somewhere inside the Basilica, the maze-like Basilica. You can spend your tokens to find it straight away, or if you want to go down there and start looking, you can.
I mean, once we find it, are we still going to have to like do a bunch of actions to get away with it, or
Maybe. It depends on the goal is merely to find it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking as a guy at 5 ruin who's wearing a stolen silver soup tureen, who has 2 hunt tokens, I'm okay with burning 2 hunt tokens to sequester the goal of Patience Davies and return to my beloved with the artifact she desires.
Sure.
Yep. I can contribute 1.
Nice. Good. Remind us what's in the reliquary. Oh, I can't hear you.
Yes, no?
Yeah, there you go. No, you're good.
Having some technical difficulties here.
Yeah.
It is the hand of a saint.
Right.
I don't know if we give it a name, but I remember the hand, the fingernails are etched with designs of beetles.
Right. Good.
And it's with a glass sort of system. I don't know, not unlike the microscope over my shoulder there.
Nice.
Perhaps
Good.
Yeah.
I like it. Sounds like we're spending 3 tokens, yeah?
I'm okay with that. 2 of mine.
I got that.
Go ahead and mark those. And yeah, you go down inside the Basilica. And I think the way you know where to go, Korkuluk, is you see beetles every now and then crawling in a particular direction. They're leading you to the thing, right? And I want to impress upon you how grand this place is. It is, once you get inside, the ceilings are very, very tall and sweeping and arched. The floors are tiled with marble. Thick smell of incense from incense braziers all over the place. And so many twists and turns. I mean, getting out may not be too tough. Just get back up to the roofs. But getting around inside without a guide would be probably impossible if you didn't know it well, right? You encounter lots of people. You see lots of people going to pray at various little alcoves and tiny little chapels that are all over the place. There are priests and nuns all about. No one seems to pay any mind to the beetles, and no one even pays any mind to you. Because, like I said, there's a lot of people here. But you're kind of making your way through. I paint the scene question for everyone. As you are here in the Grand Basilica, the heart of organized religion, of the religion of the saints, of the sisters in the world, right? Does this place make you feel Does this place feel holy, or does it feel oppressive for you? Make a decision and tell me why.
I have an interesting proposal, maybe. Can
Sure.
Diane do like a hunch roll with his spirits, and whether he feels oppressed or holy depends on the outcome of the roll?
I mean, I mean, you can just decide if you want, but
Mm-hmm.
or you can just ask a question. I'm not super interested in necessarily seeing the hunt roll itself, but
Mm-hmm.
I suppose, what is your question?
Like, he's just, he's connected to the spirit field. This is supposedly one of the most spiritually active places in the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so if he looks into that field, what does he see here?
For a moment and let Diane respond, maybe.
Do what?
Can I take it for a moment and let Diane respond?
Please do. Yeah. What do you think?
These beetles that we see sporadically that seem unseen by the others, I feel like they're the deeper force at work, that this is a long ploy. The Basilica is built not so much for the humans, even though it seems as such. It's built for the insects that surround it, and for them to have a means to gather and bring forth what they want. If they want to nibble on some leftover bread crust, if they want some vegetables brought to market, some fungus to gnaw upon, that they're the underlying force that's built this basilica and built the city around it.
It's an interesting idea.
And that as I'm walking along, I kind of tuck down to one of these little beetles and whisper, "Hey, want to meet Patience Davies? Come with me, hop on board." And I try and coax one of them to hop on my shoulder or climb up my arm.
I think that's no difficulty at all. Yeah. Whether they're responding to your particular offer or not is unclear, but it's an interesting idea for sure. I would add to this, Diane, that the spirits of this place are very old and mad, and I would even say they're older than the city, the spirits. They have been here for a very, very long time. And they feed off of the praise of the worshipers here. So how do you feel?
A little bit odd, but definitely like oppressed. Like, there's a pressure of the weight of the spirits that he's not comfortable with.
Indeed. Osto.
I think in general, Osto isn't he's religious in kind of like that background cultural way. He believed in the sisters, but it was never like a big force in his life. But now with what Alistair is saying, he's seeing everything with kind of a suspicion that he never felt before. And so I think it's oppressive. Yeah. He feels unnerved and oppressed.
Corkwood, do you have anything to add to your story in terms of feeling oppressed or feeling uplifted, as it were?
Neither oppressed nor uplifted, more a piece of the machinery, a part of the organic machinery that's at stake here. That at least my take on it is that the humans are baited in by the greater insect population that has built up this beautiful chapel, which holds this lovely reliquary that I need to secure for patients.
Speaking of that chapel, you are in quite a deep part of the Basilica at this point. At a certain point, you don't even see other people. It's deep enough to where just the average parishioner doesn't go. You don't even see any nuns or priests. Though the incense burners and the imp-like sconces are lit, and you find yourself in the entrance to a chapel, and there are rows of pews. There is a sort of altar area at the far end of it, atop which is what you've come to find, the reliquary. And there is a nun on her knees praying before the altar. Her back is to you, but she says, "I was wondering how long it would take for my sister to find this place. Here you are, doing her bidding, like so many others have. She'll turn on you someday. She'll discard you like the husk of a cockroach shell. I cannot let you leave with this thing. You're quite far away at this point. She's saying this, yelling it basically, echoing off the ceilings of the chapel.
If there are no objections, I will sidle up to her and converse. Do you have other ideas, Blaine or Drew?
Osto's toolkit for these kind of things is a little limited.
Blaine, you're muted, I think.
Yeah, Diane doesn't have any better ideas to start.
All right. I will sidle up in my most penitential way and say, Sister Davies, I really don't know if Patience has a married name or the culture. I'm sort of new to this human existence.
She says, "What do you hope to gain by giving her the reliquary?"
Before I reply, I need to lean over and see her own sort of face and physique. Is she a human? Is she a porcelain-faced beetle being?
You see mandibles.
Sister, I feel that perhaps the era of humans has run its course, that it's time for something greater to ascend. And I'll kind of caress the little beetle that has come along with me on my shoulder, hold it out for her to see it, and say, it seems that we might be more in league than we know.
Or you are more her servant than I originally anticipated. And the back of her habit tears open as 4 large mantis-like arms come out the top. she begins to grow titanic in size, the habit shredding away until filling the space and turning to face you is a massive 20-foot tall, multi-limbed, meaning more limbs than normal, mantis being. Lets out a terrible hissing cry. And that's where we shall end the session. Stars and wishes. I usually start, so why don't you guys go first?
Holy crap, it's a good cliffhanger ending. I was not expecting quite that. So I guess that's a star. And the sort of growing familial nuances between characters, motives, backstories is always delightful. It's part of why role-playing games are so good. Wishes. I wish that I survived this and actually managed to take my Ruin 5 butt all the way back to Patience Davies and return a reliquary. That's my wish.
Stars. I think the whole scene at Alistair's was just a nice creeping, growing horror. That, like, especially like with the familiarity of the crows, as we slowly realized, oh yeah, this is Hester's stuff going on, and then have that not culminate in like, hey, we're going to just kill this thing, but it's just like we were allowed to peacefully leave. It was just a very odd tenseness. I enjoyed that. Wishes. I too wish to survive. I am also at 5 Ruin. We are in dangerous territory, that's for sure.
Stars. Also, just the scene at the set at Alistair's house, it didn't go as I was expecting. I was expecting a bit more like social drama, not pseudo sequel to Hester's Mill. But that was awesome. And wishes beyond everyone's continued survival. I hope we see Alistair again somehow. And
I have a feeling we're going to.
Okay.
Yeah, stars. I came up with the Alistair's house set pretty fast. I would say about 10 minutes before we started. But I'm really happy with how it turned out. And it had a good horror movie feel to it, very appropriate for the season. So that was fun. I did not intend for it to be dangerous for you guys. Like, it was never going to be like, you could die here. But I wanted it to feel like you could. And so I think I succeeded in that regard. So that's a start of myself. I'm very fortunate to have a very like deep archive of role-playing game stuff in my brain, so I can do stuff like this on the fly, right? Or more or less on the fly. But that worked out great. Creepy horror houses are my specialty, so I was really happy that just kind of worked great. And I actually like how, I think it says a lot about the system as well, because, which is a star for Jesse, I suppose, like the telling you there is a horrifying secret to be found did not diminish the unfurling of that horrifying secret, and indeed probably enhanced it, because you're now on edge to like know that there's something bad going on, right? I'd be curious to get your thoughts on that, but that's how it felt watching you play, right? And so I was really, really happy with that little kind of side set. I thought that was really fun, and very much in my personal preferred wheelhouse of play, so I was really happy with that. And also, I'm pretty happy with, because this is a little side diversion that we're in right now too, right? Because Top of the World doesn't presume that you go down inside the Basilica, right? So that's fun too. I know I wanted to end with a kind of Dark Soulsy sort of drama monster, so that was fun. And I thought you all did a great job, and the group is just really cohesing well, the way you interact with each other, the conversations that you have. I like the party. I like the addition of Shiara. I just like seeing it all kind of come together. It's really great and enjoyable. And the tension's great. Wishes, I hope you survive as well. There is no dishonor in running away, I think. But if you want that reliquary, I think it's going to be a tricky proposition. Another thing I want to see you use your rituals more. We don't see your rituals very often, and I'd like to see that more often. I think it's probably because you're always on the knife's edge dying, so maybe it feels dangerous to do a ritual. But I feel like there's an opportunity coming up for a ritual here, right? It feels like the right move. I wish the so the final rule set for Trophy Gold is going to have an option where someone can hang back and do a ritual in the combat, and basically they can lower the endurance of the monster while not being in the combat themselves, but they do have to do a risk roll. And so that's not quite 100% ready to go yet, but I like that as sort of playing around with that idea. If we do something like that with this encounter with sister deities, I'm into that, and I think that'd be kind of cool to see if you guys want to play it that way. But in any case, just in general, I'd like to see the rituals more, I think. And understanding that, of course, they're very dangerous for a couple of you right now to do because you have 5 growing. But otherwise, and I think I'm really happy with how this is going. I'm really enjoying it. It's a fun campaign. So, I am curious to get your thoughts about the interplay between knowing the set goal and how it made it feel in play.
Yeah, I think it did very much change the tension from just oh, we're at this very tense dinner with this person that we know Osto has a grudge against, to, oh, we're at this very tense supernatural dinner with this person Osto has a grudge against.
Yeah.
It changed the tone immediately, I think.
Good. I think that was desired effect, I think, for sure.
Changes the tone and also guides questions rather than us
Right.
asking about the greater culture of Ambaret and what art museums are open this weekend. We could focus in on there's something wrong in your homestead.
Yes, there's definitely something wrong. There were so many good scenes in that whole sequence. The conversation with Mara was wonderful. Just the beats of the maid coming out of the room and pushing past you, and clearly something going on, and it was all just really good stuff. And I feel like what underpins it is the idea that you know the set goal, right? Knowing the set goal makes it I think it lets you as players get in the right headspace. We know we're about to do a horror thing, right? So, but I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on that. It's interesting to me.
I thought it's good. It provides a framework for where you should go, because it can, in my very limited RPG experience, sometimes it can feel like there's so many options that so having that kind of scaffold of
there is a secret here. Yeah.
It's basically acting like a hint to a puzzle. Sometimes you'll give somebody a puzzle and they'll just flounder at it for an hour and a half, and that starts to bleed through from the characters into the players.
Yeah.
Just getting frustrated with everything. And I think hanging hanging that clue there, it really helps avoid that.
Yeah, focuses things a little bit for sure. Well, this was great fun. I had a really good time. It was great. I just love the session. It felt like a good Halloween season session to me. Felt very appropriate, seasonally appropriate session. So I had a good time with that. In terms of housekeeping, I should be available to play next week if everyone else is. I think the hard weekend is going to be the weekend after that, because that's the next Gauntlet open gaming weekend. And even though I'm not involved in that, most other people are, so I just plan on taking the weekend off, right? So yeah, thank you all so much. I'm going to stop the recording.